Hi, this is your girl Annette, and we are here speaking with another fabulous volunteer. But before I introduce you to Paige, let me share a little bit about Peace Corps and our mission and our vision. So, Peace Corps is a service opportunity for motivated change makers to immerse themselves in a community abroad, working side by side with local leaders to tackle the most pressing and challenging issues facing communities today. The Peace Corps' mission is to promote world peace and friendship by fulfilling three goals. One, to help the people of interested countries in meeting their need for trained men and women. Two, to help promote a better understanding of Americans on the part of the people served. And three, which is what we're here doing today, is to help promote a better understanding of other people on the part of Americans. And today we have Paige, who is going to share her experience with Peace Corps. Hi, Paige.
Hey, Nat. Thanks so much for having me.
It is my pleasure. So where did you serve and when?
So I was an education volunteer in a little town called Namakura in central Mozambique from 2016 until 2018. So pretty recent.
Mm-hmm. And what was your program when you were in Peace Corps?
I was a teacher. I was an education volunteer. So I taught English at my little secondary school. My first year I taught 12th graders, which was tough because they were my age, some of them, and a lot of them were bigger than me, but they were amazing. I really enjoyed it. It just took a little bit of learning. And my second year I taught 8th graders, which is a whole different kind of challenge, but also really fun. And I really enjoyed teaching. I learned a lot from my kids, and they were one of my favorite parts of my service.
That is awesome. Did you have any additional programs that you initiated with the children at your school?
Yeah, I did. So I worked with my kids pretty closely in and outside of school, just pertaining to English alone. So it was a lot of tutoring, a lot of kids coming to my house and knocking on my door and saying, Professora Paige, can you please come, let's work on English. So that was always fun because I always had a smattering of kids at my house, and we would be trading stories in Portuguese and English and reading things from magazines and just, working on our skills. But that was a really nice way to bond with my students and watch them progress really rapidly outside of the classroom.
That is awesome. Did you speak Portuguese before going?
I didn't, no, which was probably what made teaching 12th graders so challenging, because they were teaching me Portuguese while I taught them English. But I did not speak Portuguese, and now I am a much better Portuguese speaker than I started off as being. But that was a great skill to get coming out of Mozambique as well.
I'm trying to think if I remember. Is como vai você Portuguese?
Como vai is Portuguese. It was close.
Okay. And is I tudo bem?
Yes, that's Portuguese. You got it. Tudo bem.
So I've had the pleasure of meeting a variety of people when I was in my Disney service who were Brazilian, actually.
Okay.
I was asking, how do I say, how are you or welcome? And they taught me, como vai você? And to say, ai, tudo bem. It to one of their teachers coming in and the ai, tudo bem. And he laughed. And I was like, oh my gosh, what did I say?
Oh no, it was great.
Very flirtatious way of saying, how are you? And I'm well.
Like, what's up? Yeah, very casual.
So did you have any of those language pieces now that you're—
Oh my goodness. There's so many of those little language pieces over and over again. I remember one time, it was early, like this is such a small thing that stands out, but it was early in my service, and I was I loved my school director. I had a fantastic experience with the school that I worked with, which was really fortunate. Every volunteer has a different experience, but my direct supervisor and the overall school director were super invested in the school and worked really well with my roommate and I and my site mates. So that was really nice to have, but I was trying so hard to impress them in the beginning and just trying to make small talk with my very limited Portuguese. And I was trying to say something about, it's very hot in my, where I lived in Mozambique was one of maybe the 2 hottest parts of the country. So okay. I was trying to say something like, I think I was saying, I was trying to say I can't stop sweating, I think, which is not appropriate to begin with, but that's what I was trying to say. And instead I said, I can't stop breathing. And no one said anything about it. Everyone was just like, okay. And just little things like that. I got very good at that face that people make where they're like, and you know they don't know what you're trying to say, but they don't want to hurt your feelings. So.
Yes. I know that face all too well from my service. So in addition to, I guess, working as an English teacher and some of the other projects that you initiated as a teacher, what was one of the most challenging pieces of that initiative that you started?
So I'll talk a little bit about one of the programs that I did outside of teaching. I helped, or I was the provincial coordinator rather. In Mozambique, you have provinces rather than states. So for a program called REDISH, which in English stands for Girls in Education, Health and Development. So it was a girls empowerment initiative and program where we focused on, health topics, education topics, just bringing girls together to learn about their bodies and community and resources they have, which was really great. And every year you run workshops. In my province, it was like three to four workshops a year for girls all over the province, which was really amazing. And I had been elected provincial coordinator maybe in my second month at site, but I was meant to go to the workshops of the provincial coordinator before me. But for a variety of reasons, the provincial coordinator before me had to leave country and go back to the States and terminate their service. So I got thrown into the fire without ever having been to one of these before, without ever having seen how I work, with no one to like show me the ropes, and barely speaking. The manual was in Portuguese. All of the resources were in Portuguese. And I was in country for 4 months at that point. So that was super challenging because it was everything from just getting the manual read, trying to imagine how to bring this kind of thing to life, not only in the town close by me, but in towns all over the province that I couldn't go to, and how to get resources there. And then like hitchhiking all over the place to try and get things printed, and trying to get books made and t-shirts made and things like that, which is hard in the States, but to do in Mozambique is a logistical challenge. Like there was one time I think it was like 300 t-shirts that I had to transport, and it was like a 2-hour ride. And I was like, don't know how I'm going to do this.
Who picked you up with 300 t-shirts?
So I had like a small miracle happen where basically I was trying to get a ride into town, and this group of South African missionaries who were staying at the place where I was going to host the event passed by, and they were like, oh, do you need a ride? We're going to the city. And I was like, yeah, sure. So I get in, and they're telling me they live at the place that I was going to host the event. They're going to spend the day in the city. And I was like, can you bring the t-shirts back for me? So it was the universe looking out for me, because they picked me up, picked up all the t-shirts, brought them all over where they needed to go, and drove me home. So
wow, nice.
Yeah, it was mostly luck, but
no, I like the intervention, like that.
Oh, it was divine intervention.
If there was anything that you could change or enhance about your service, what would you do?
Ooh, if there was anything I don't think I would change anything about my service, but I think there's some things I would have changed about my mindset in my service, which I think would have made a big difference. I am very type A, very I like to be in control of my situation. I like to be able to plan things. And Mozambique is, I'm sure a lot of places are, but Mozambique is the kind of country where your neighbor could show up at your front door, knocking on the door until you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning because they need an egg. Like, it is unpredictable. Everything's unpredictable, and there's no personal space. Like, nothing's in your control. And it was really tough for me from the beginning to kind of adapt my mindset to being okay with that and to enjoying it, as opposed to kind of getting frustrated with it all the time. Right. And once I did, it's a learning process forever, but once I did, service was infinitely more fun and more enjoyable. But in the beginning, when there was that tension the whole time, I think it really took away from me being able to be present. But it's an amazing skill to learn while you have the chance, because sometimes that kind of thing is tough to learn in the States when it is come on time. So
it is. We were sharing that some people wanted to extend their service because they were like, their first year was basically getting to know their community and the year they were really into whatever initiatives or projects that they had. And like near the end, it's like, but we're not done yet. I just need a little bit more time. And I'm like, that typically works out because then your counterpart that you're typically working with has the opportunity to kind of see it through. And hopefully you guys have built a relationship enough where they're keeping you in the loop, or, you know, when you do have that time where you can leave, you can kind of still sort of kind of hang around if you want to.
Yeah.
South Africa, actually, when I left, instead of just leaving. I'm hanging out for
a nice US trip afterwards. But that actually makes me think of two different things. I think one of them was that so I wanted to do Peace Corps since I was a kid. I found out my friend's older sister had done it in China, and I was in 4th grade, and I was like, I want to do that one day. But the closer I kind of got to the age where I was able to apply, I was just terrified of the 2-year commitment. I was like, I don't want to. I like my home. Like, I don't want to leave for 2 years. But in the end, couldn't have been any other way. I don't know how people do stints. And really, I do think a lot of the projects that I was engaged with, I think they mattered, and I think they were important, and I learned a ton. I hope my community appreciated my experience there. But I just don't think I could have gotten anything done in that first year alone with my language skills and my lack of knowledge about the people I was working with, you know? So I do think that 2 years is important.
I agree.
Yeah. And also the other thing that made me think of was just I worked with both of my roommates and my site mate to help open up and then eventually run and maintain and work with my community to get our community's first library off the ground.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was amazing. It was a ton of work. It was a lot of working closely with all different stakeholders within the community and really getting like students involved, getting teachers involved, getting people to work at the library throughout the course of the day when we weren't around. And I've been gone since 2018, and then the most recent volunteers have been evacuated, and I'm still in touch with people, and that library is still going. And
nice.
That's a great thing to hear about.
That is awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So in terms of you, so you did say that you learned about Peace Corps when you were younger by another teacher. And
I think she was a teacher. I can't remember that far back, but.
Well, okay, because that was just one of the questions. How did you learn about Peace Corps? So now in terms of you were doing like, what was the program, the girls program that you did? Ready? Okay. So in Namibia, it was called GAD and GAIN. So with Ready, is that something that you're continuing to do now here in the States?
I'm actually in law school right now. So there's not much time for anything outside of law school. But I am trying to keep that work in mind as I move through my time in law school. So next semester I'll be taking some more human rights oriented classes, and I hope to be able to incorporate that.
And I did hear that you said you lived with 2 other volunteers.
Yep. So I was when they gave us a magic wish in Mozambique, and I was like, if you isolate me, there's no way I'm gonna make it. So, which is not true. I think I would have probably made friends in my community, and I think it would have been fine. But at the time, it was scary. So I had a roommate that I shared my house with, and then we also had a site mate that was a health volunteer.
Nice. And they were all Peace Corps volunteers, but they each had their own program. But you guys collaborated.
My roommate was also a teacher. She was also an English teacher, or I'm sorry, a secondary school teacher. But my roommate in both situations taught a different subject than me. So I taught English and they taught math or science in the community, which was nice because my first year, my roommate at the time, she did a huge science fair in the community, which was, and I did an English theater project. So we had really nice complementary things going on. And then the health volunteer had their thing going on at the hospital. So it was nice.
Wow, so I served in 2001 to 2003 and absolutely loving the growth that you see in Peace Corps in terms of projects, coordination with the volunteers, the housing situation with volunteers, and the accommodations that they've seemingly made in making sure that the volunteers are not only good, but they are supported in completing their full 2 years. That is awesome.
Yeah, I felt really, really heard, and I was really lucky. I ended up with a wonderful situation.
Mozambique is also a very beautiful place to be.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous. No one knows about it. It's a well-kept secret, but it is amazing, that country. I hear Namibia is too. I'm dying to go.
Mm-hmm. Mozambique, I did have the pleasure of popping in to Mozambique at the end of my service. So I got to peruse just a little bit like, oh, I should have checked this out a little bit earlier, like before my service. But that's I have time when I go back and visit. Do you have any intentions of going back to visit Mozambique?
Yes, I would love, I'm dying to go back and visit. I recently, my host family, my host sister just had a baby, and like my pseudo host family, they just had another son, and I can't wait to meet those little children. And I first chance I get, I'll be back. So I'm really looking forward to it.
So if there are people who are interested in serving or have been thinking about or considering becoming a volunteer, what is something you would like to share with them?
Well, I think first thing is that if you do decide to do it, it'll be the best thing you ever did, and you'll be so glad you did it. And I think another thing that was super helpful for me, because it is challenging, and I'm sure everyone will tell you that it is if you decide to go, and if you decide, even as you're working through the application process, just really figure out what it is that makes you want to do it, because that'll carry you all the way through. And I knew why I wanted to join. I knew what my reasons were for being there. And on my hardest days, when people were like, you're volunteering, like you could come home if you want to, I was able to kind of fall back and be like, these are the reasons that I'm here. And I want to fulfill those things. And I think that's really important.
That is a great idea, because when you're calling home and you're like, oh my gosh, it was so high and nobody came to my project and I was sitting in the room by myself. Like, come home.
I was like, Mom, you got to stop saying that to me. Like,
they're like, well, your mom was like, baby, it's okay if you want to come back. And it's like, no,
it's not okay.
I don't want to just quit and stop. Like, I can do this.
It's just because I'm craving peanut butter or whatever, it doesn't mean I can come home.
No. Skittles and Starburst. And I was like in the corner, like sucking on Skittles and Starburst, but it was like the best thing ever to happen.
Oh yeah.
When those boxes came.
That was the best. Honestly, I miss appreciating things like that. Like I miss appreciating going to a restaurant and like not worrying about whether they bleached my vegetables, like a little thing like that. And now I never think about that when I go out to eat now. But it used to be the best, I'd go to a restaurant and be like, oh, I can put a lemon in my water here. This is great.
How about mine is the opposite. I missed in my service that nothing went to waste and everything was appreciated.
Yeah.
The time you spent, even if walking through your village, they were like, it was so nice to see you to an event, or them coming to an event. Thank you for sharing, that information. It was good. Like I missed that exchange of volunteers with ideas and suggestions and networking. And it wasn't like, oh, you're copying off of me. It was like, doing this, and this is working. If you want to try it in your village, I have some resources and some materials that I'll leave at the office, and you can pick it up when you come to the office. Like that was like the best thing ever. Yeah. And the level of creativity that you had to ensure that whatever initiatives your community or your counterpart came up with, that you have the flexibility to say, let's do it. Let's try it. Let's do things.
Yeah, I think both of those pieces that you talked about are so important. I think having the infrastructure, something as simple as Google Drive, it doesn't have to be anything fancy, but just having a way to make sure that good ideas are kept and communicated and shared with different volunteers is super important, because it doesn't matter where you are, but Mozambique's a huge country and people think really differently, speak different languages, have different traditions. So what your counterpart in Niassa might come up with is totally different from what someone's counterpart in Maputo might come up with. So that was amazing. And I think what you touched on there with the support system you build with Peace Corps, you're just all family so quickly. And it's so cheesy to say that for anybody watching, like I am sure you're rolling your eyes, but Peace Corps, you go through some physical hardships, probably a lot of times wherever you serve, as your body adapts to where you're going through, and you'll get sick, and you miss home sometimes. And when you're doing that with these people, everyone comes to each other's rescue, and they become home away from home for sure.
And that is exactly correct. Paige, thank you so much for joining me.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So from leading health campaigns to boosting local entrepreneurship to teaching digital literacy, Peace Corps offers a range of opportunities for having you make a difference in the country that you serve. If you need help finding the best fit, contact a recruiter with Peace Corps. All you have to do is go to peacecorps.gov. They have all the resources you need. Thank you again, Paige.
Thanks so much.